Tonight, anger in the far west of New South Wales after another mass fish kill on the Darling River. And thousands gather in Port Lincoln for the annual Tuna Festival.
From our 7 Spencer Golf studios, your nightly news with Louise Hedger begins now.
Good evening. There's been another mass fish kill on the Darling River near the outback town of Menindee. It's the second in as many weeks, and locals are concerned there is more to come.
Richard Arnold has lived on the Darling River for almost 30 years, but he's never seen anything like this.
It's just bloody terrible.
After 6 days of 40 degrees, Menindee's weather dropped to 23 on Monday. The sudden cold snap depriving fish of oxygen, killing thousands in hours. Up to 1 million fish died earlier this month in similar circumstances, with more found dead in December. Richard has now seen 3 fish kills in just over a month.
When you see all these dead fish, I didn't realise how healthy this whole pond situation was. With all the cod that have died from the videos that we've put out and all the fish even now, I didn't realise how healthy it was, and it will never, ever, not in my time, ever get back to that situation.
Mr Arnold says drought is not the cause of these recent fish kills, believing mismanagement of the river system is to blame. But the state's water minister, who visited the region today, says there's nothing to point to except low inflows into the system and the drought. A clean-up crew is already on the ground in Menindee, monitoring the situation.
We need to find anything that is different this time than last time to try and put together some pieces of the puzzle to prevent it happening in the future. I don't know that we will.
The recent fish kill has renewed calls for a royal commission into the management of the Murray-Darling Basin.
We've got to ensure in the future that this doesn't all happen again. Otherwise, it's going to destroy the whole Darling and eventually it'll destroy the Murray.
In Menindee, Patrick Royenke, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Port Pirie Police is investigating a suspicious car fire at Risdon Park, with neighbours reporting the sound of an explosion that echoed through the neighbourhood overnight. A white Mazda station wagon was set alight at 2 a.m. in the driveway of a property on Plenty Street. The MFS responded quickly and were able to extinguish the blaze, which was threatening the residents. The fire was contained before any serious damage to the property could occur. Anyone with any information is asked to contact Crime Stoppers on 1800 333 000. It was quite an expensive long weekend for one Port Augusta driver after he was fined over $1,000 for speeding more than 50 kilometres over the limit. The 45-year-old man was caught doing 158 kilometres an hour in a 110 zone by Mobile Patrol on the Stewart Highway north of Port Augusta. He was issued an on-the-spot fine totalling $1,096 and had his licence disqualified for 6 months. Fire crews in Whyalla battled to contain a small fire at the Steelworks this morning. Crews were called to the area just after 10:30. It's understood the fire was on a conveyor belt in the coal stacker. Crews were on site for around 45 minutes, with thermal imaging used to detect hotspots. Damage is believed to be minimal. 2 robberies in 3 days has seen Broken Hill Police call on the public to help with their investigations. A local petrol station and a takeaway shop were the targets across the long weekend, but police don't believe they're connected.
A busy weekend for local coppers. The first of 2 robberies in Broken Hill occurred on Australia Day. A man and a 10-year-old boy entered the Metro petrol station just before 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The man, armed with a knife, threatened the attendant before stealing cash from the register. The robbers then fled the scene, one on foot, the other on a bicycle. Police arrived shortly after, forensics examining the scene. The attendant was not injured.
The first male was described as being Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander in appearance, in his early 20s, about 180 centimetres tall. The second person was described as being about 10 years of age, about 130 centimetres tall, and believed to have left on foot.
The second robbery saw a takeaway shop on Brookfield Avenue targeted at around 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon. 2 men entered the business and stole cash before fleeing in what was believed to be a blue Holden Commodore.
We're asking for any public assistance that may have been there before about 3 p.m. may have seen anything. We're also seeking to locate a dark blue Holden Commodore sedan.
At this stage, police are still investigating if the two hold-ups are connected.
Whilst we've had the two offences, we don't have information that they're linked at this time, but it is importantly for both matters are under investigation.
Police are encouraging locals with car dash cams or CCTV cameras on their homes who think they may help with investigations to come forward. Patrick Ryankey, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Construction on the Port Wakefield overpass is edging closer, with the state government announcing the start of the design process. The intersection is a notorious bottleneck for motorists during peak holiday periods.
The wheels are now in motion for the $90 million upgrade to the Copper Coast and Augusta Highway Junction. The designing process for the multi-lane underpass is well underway, and many of the state's motorists are breathing a sigh of relief.
I'd love the thing to be finished. Bring it on, let's get it done.
Both state and federal governments have updated the public on the current planning stage. Negotiations are underway with a number of landholders to arrange the road's expansion, which will partially cut into property owned by the local caravan park.
The Minister informed us that they're advanced stages now on the acquisition. It's not a huge amount. That corridor through Port Wakefield is pretty generous.
The intersection is one of the most accident-prone locations in regional SA. Last October, 5 people were seriously injured in a crash when 2 cars collided at the meeting point of the Copper Coast and Augusta highways.
It's dangerous. It's not called crash corner by accident.
During peak holiday periods, the traffic through this stretch of road doubles from its daily average of 8,000 vehicles to a whopping 14,000. For those unfamiliar to the area, it can be quite a difficult stretch to navigate and can cause some serious accidents.
For those of us who use it regularly, it's quite easy, I think, but there are a lot of people who use it irregularly, and I think that it can be a little confusing.
Work is expected to begin in 2020, and it is estimated to be completed by 2022. Dominic Beaton, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
An increased police presence at Port Lincoln over the long weekend saw 6 people nabbed for drink driving. One of those drivers was a 41-year-old local man blowing .152, more than 3 times the legal limit. He lost his licence for 12 months and had his car impounded for 28 days. A 33-year-old provisional driver from New South Wales was also caught and blew .069. Police say they were happy overall with the good behaviour from people during the Tuna festivities. And crowds swarmed Port Lincoln over the long weekend for the 58th Tuna Festival. Visitors made most of the festivities from land, sea and in the air, while organisers say the event has finally returned to its former glory.
With more than 20,000 festival goers enjoying Tunarama by land, sea and air, it's no wonder this year was one of the biggest yet.
The community's right behind this festival and I believe, it's a big call, it's our best ever.
Port Lincoln's iconic festival once again putting on a spectacular show for the Australia Day long weekend. It's a chance to showcase what the town has become famous for.
Some of the best food, wine and fish in the world.
It's just been an outstanding event and it's something that I've never experienced before. I'm coming back.
There was live music drawing in crowds by the thousands. Locals and visitors flocked to the streets for the annual parade, filled with dancers, riders on horseback and a hose down from our emergency services. But it's not Tunarama without the competitions and the chance to win some cash.
But it's also about that element of competition and everyone wants to beat everyone.
Go!
Spectators lined the foreshore and jetty for the boat building race. Swimmers raced to the finish line. Teenagers took to the tuna tossing arena to toss a salmon, while others got their gear off for the beach bods competition. But overall, the festival is a chance to inject big bucks into the local economy.
Well, it injects about $3.2 million into this community. It puts Port Lincoln on the map.
Much of that economic injection coming from international visitors, as well as those exploring the festival from the visiting Golden Princess cruise ship.
A lot of international people, and I've actually spoken to them about coming back for other festivals, especially our 60th, which is in 2 years' time, and they seem pretty keen to come back and explore our beautiful city.
Case Trelaw, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Still to come tonight, Port Augusta police out in force as kids return to school. And we'll check out how our region celebrated Australia Day. As students return to classrooms across the state, authorities say they've got dangerous drivers in their sights. South Australian police have commenced Operation Return to School and are hoping a highly visible presence will remind drivers of the many risks near school areas.
It's been a 5-week break that probably went too quick for kids and not quick enough for parents. But today students made their way through the school gates for the start of Term 1. But with increased pedestrian and traffic activity around school grounds, police are hoping to make the trip from the home to the classroom a safe one.
Operation Return to School for 2019 works with all the kids going back to school.
Authorities will have a strong presence at school drop-off zones and crossing hotspots across regional South Australia.
Just to remind people of the safe way to get their kids to school and to pick them up again in the afternoon.
Special emphasis has been placed on educating pupils starting their first year of school about the importance of road safety.
So are not familiar with what they need to do as far as getting to school in a safe and efficient manner.
Data shows that over a 10-year period nationwide, 270 children under the age of 14 were killed by a moving vehicle. Police say many school students can be hard to see for oncoming traffic.
They're smaller than the cars, they can duck out from behind cars.
South Australian police are urging drivers and pedestrians to be vigilant in these hotspots and to abide by the school zone restrictions.
Pay attention not only to other vehicles in the area, but also the pedestrians and the kids going to and from school.
Garth Burley, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Thousands of people across our region gathered on Saturday to celebrate Australia Day. Events were held to honour unique citizens, entertain the crowds and welcome new citizens to our nation.
It was a day of pride in Whyalla as locals came together to mark our National Day. A massive crowd gathered in Adirang Gardens. Kids enjoyed the entertainment, while the traditional sausage sizzle was popular with the crowd. It was also Mayor Claire McLaughlin's first Australia Day in the top job.
Australia Day is one of the big days for the Mayor during the year because, you know, you're addressing your whole community.
A number of local heroes were also recognised for their efforts in the community. Citizen of the Year Leslie Maxwell was also officially presented her award.
It was really lovely today to just see the community out in force and doing what we do best, celebrating the best of Whyalla.
But for 8 residents, Saturday was an emotional one. They became a full member of Club Australia, taking the oath of citizenship. For most of them, it was a chance to give back to a country that's given so much to them.
Feels like I finally belong, so now I can say I'm an Australian citizen.
Eventually I fell in love and I want to stay here, so continue to join the community.
And a couple were very emotional, so it is a big deal taking their pledge on this special day.
Meanwhile, in Port Lincoln, they were up early for breakfast by the sea. The flag was raised, while 2 local residents also took up their new citizenship. Karen Carr was named Citizen of the Year. John Hunt, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Our region is playing its role in growing the state's food and wine revenue. Revenue increased by 2% last financial year to $20.3 billion. The state's wine industry, which has a big presence in the Clare Valley, was also a strong performer, with exports up by 26%. Revenue from seafood, a major industry on the Eyre Peninsula, was marginally up by around 1% despite the effects of the POMS disease crisis in Tasmania. Despite the dry conditions, most industries held their own. A 21-year-old Port Pirie man will face court on several charges after police allegedly uncovered a tomahawk axe and an expandable baton in the boot of his car yesterday. The man was stopped during a routine traffic stop, with checks on the driver revealing he had never held a driver's licence. He attempted to escape arrest but was located by patrols nearby. He was refused bail and faced the Port Pirie Magistrates Court today, where he had his car impounded for 28 days. Kadeena's CBD upgrade is reaching closer to completion, with the council anticipating the work to end as soon as May. The 2-year project has transformed the downtown area into a more pedestrian-friendly precinct.
Slowly but surely, the final touches are being made to Kadeena's town centre.
The major works has been completed. We're now just doing the tidying up work.
The York Peninsula town has undergone an infrastructure overhaul, with the resurfacing of roads, the planting of new trees and the repaving of footpaths.
The last lot of asphalt that needs to go down, bitumen that needs to go down, is scheduled for May.
The redevelopment has grown bigger than intended, expanding into the outer suburbs. The town's water tower also has a new look after renowned artist Rezio added his creative signature, just outside the Kadina CBD Chamber of Commerce. And in an effort to make the town more pedestrian friendly, further grants are allocated to upgrading school crossings. Now, the CBD upgrades have taken a little longer than expected, but that's because of additional funding, which will ultimately be better for the town in general. The rezoning of the town's roads have caused minor headaches for drivers, including the creation of some one-way roads. But the council is confident locals will become more comfortable.
For those of us that have travelled to work for 20 years and used the same route every time, we now have to think about how we're going to get somewhere.
Dominic Beaton, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Stay with us after the break. We'll check the results of a big long weekend of sport, and the biggest and strongest gather in Port Lincoln for the annual Tuna Toss. Welcome back. Port Lincoln's Tunarama competitions drew in crowds by the thousands, but none more so than the famous World Championship Tuna Toss finals, with 2 professional hammer throwers from interstate taking all of the glory.
It wouldn't be Tunarama without the World Tuna Toss Championships. Locals joined other competitors from Adelaide, interstate and even overseas. Even the new mayor tried his hand at a toss, as well as a throw by visiting Minister Tim Whetstone.
The tossing of the tuna might bring me undone, but we'll give it a go.
Oh!
Well, it didn't go according to plan, but I did manage to, toss the tuna. I did overstep the line.
Saturday saw almost 80 male and female competitors try their chance in the heats before the finals took place the next day. While contestants throw this rubber tuna in the heats, a real tuna is used for the finals, and at 10 kilos, they're surprisingly heavy, so it takes plenty of skill to throw. In the women's final, it was the 2017 champion and professional hammer thrower from the Gold Coast who came back to defend her title.
I took up hammer throwing for the first time ever when I turned 40. That's now 9 years ago, and luckily tossing the tuna is very similar to a hammer throwing technique.
Local lad and last year's winner Levi Proud came in hot as the men's favourite, but the spectacular technique by a visiting hammer thrower from Sydney took out this year's title.
I heard about this event through a friend that I train with, so me and my girlfriend, we organised a road trip down here and thought we'd give it a go and enjoy ourselves.
Casey Trelaw, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Now let's have a look at some of the sporting action from around the region. Garth Burley is in Port Augusta, and Garth, a few sports still hit the park over the long weekend.
Yes, that's right, Louise. A large number of teams did enjoy a good break over the Australia Day long weekend. But in the games that were played, there were some surprising results. To the Whyalla ballpark, where the Indians fought hard to record a close 2-run win over top-of-the-table Tigers. Roadrunners nailed 14 runs to beat Eagles. And in the seniors baseball, Roadrunners were held scoreless as Indians made 8 runs past home base. Turning attention to the Port Augusta 8-ball table, where RSL Dynamite were too good for Central Bloods. PABC Shooters tallied up 12 to defeat the Gunners by 8. And in the other match between Travellers Rest Blue and Central Red, scores were locked at 6 apiece in the third set, before Christine White won the final frame to win the match for her side. And nearly 70 golfers braved the hot weather and made their way onto the course in Port Lincoln. The Stableford competition saw Don Henson take out the honours by 2 points ahead of Josh Horsler. And in the women, Ginny Hussey was the best on course with 35, followed closely by Cindy Carr. So there's the latest sports results from around the region. But with many teams due to recommence after the Christmas break, Louise, next weekend is going to be chock-a-block full of sport.
Stay with us after the break. We'll check what the weather has in store this week. Welcome back. Now time to take a look at what's happening in the weather with Britt Aylen.
Thanks, Louise. Well, it's been a clear and sunny day across the Gulf. Port Augusta reached a top of 38 degrees today, Whyalla 33, Port Lincoln 29, Broken Hill 37 and Port Pirie 36. From the satellite, we can see a weakening ridge of high pressure over coastal areas of South Australia, which will allow a trough of low pressure to move through on Wednesday. On the waters tomorrow, south to southwesterly winds at 20 to 25 knots and swells to 1.5 metres. The sun will rise at 6:37 in the morning with sunset just before 8:30. Tomorrow, a sunny day for most regions, hot and gusty in Port Augusta with a top of 42. Whyalla also windy, 40 degrees there, 39 the top for Woodner tomorrow, Broken Hill fine and 38 degrees, Clare, Cleve and Kadina all 37. Looking to the end of the week now, fine days ahead for Port Lincoln, partly cloudy with temperatures in the mid-20s, warming to a sunny 31 on Saturday. Cleve, temperatures creeping up through the week, 22 on Thursday, 27 on Friday, up to 37 on Saturday. Woodner, fine on Thursday, hot and sunny as we head into the weekend. Whyalla dropping back to a top of just 26 on Thursday, but back into the 30s on Friday and Saturday. Port Augusta fine and 30 degrees on Thursday, 35 on Friday, 41 the max on Saturday. Kadina mostly fine with some sunny days ahead. Partly cloudy at Port Pirie on Thursday, sunny with a top of 32 on Friday. A fine Thursday for Clare as well before a sunny end to the week. And nice and sunny in Broken Hill through the week, 33 on Thursday and Friday, a top of 38 on Saturday. And that's all for Tuesday's weather, Louise. It's back to you.
Thanks for that, Britt. And that's the local news this Tuesday. Thanks for your company. We'll see you again tomorrow. Good night.